All right, hello and good afternoon or good morning in some areas. I am Dr. Latasha Headley alongside my colleague, Dr. Indukaku Amalu, and welcome to our roundtable discussion on COVID-19 vaccine. Public is a platform for open and evidence-based discussions regarding issues affecting our local and global communities. By providing substantiated information and practical approaches to address public health issues, we intend to raise awareness on local and global public health issues to promote healthy quality of life and environment to mitigate social and public health injustices. Always remember to keep up with your reliable source by signing up at public.org. That's PUBHOLIC.org, and follow us on Instagram at www.instagram.com/public. Today's discussion is on COVID-19 vaccine, and Dr. Amalu and myself will define what a vaccine is, clarify the purpose of the COVID-19 vaccine. We will also talk about the current vaccinations currently offered in the United States. We will do a comparison of the identified vaccines and give you general information on where you can find the information if you want to do further research on these vaccinations. We also have a few guests that will be sharing their experiences, and then we will open up the forum for our roundtable discussion. We do want to inform you before we start today's presentation portion that Dr. Amalu and myself are doing our presentation solely based on published literature, and this does not entail our personal opinions. Before I continue, Dr. Amalu, would you like to add anything?
Thank you, Dr. Headley. I really appreciate the warm introduction. You said it all. We are here to present facts published by the pharmaceutical companies and credible public health agencies regarding the vaccines that are currently being administered to the population in the United States and across the world. So we're presenting the facts, and of course, we're not endorsing anything, but we're just presenting it as is.
Thank you for that. So we will first define the vaccine definition, what it is. The vaccine is a biological construct or substance designed to stimulate the production of antibodies to provide immunity against one or several viruses against diseases linked to the virus or causative agents. Is usually prepared from the causative agents such as from virus component, its products, or a synthetic substitute often treated to act as an antigen without inducing the disease caused by the virus of the cause agent. Being vaccinated does not necessarily mean that a person cannot carry or transmit the virus or causative agent. And this is something that we found to be very common throughout the ideology of the public, that once they get the COVID-19 vaccine, that they will be they'll be immune to it. Dr. Amalu, please proceed.
Okay, on that you've got the idea about vaccine, the operational definition of vaccine. What we wanted to do here is that there are three current vaccines that are being administered here in the United States: the Pfizer, Moderna vaccine, and Janssen vaccine. So here we wanted to actually describe the active ingredient components for these vaccines, and also discuss briefly the inactive ingredients, because people want to know what they're putting in their body. And by describing it, maybe it will help a lot of people make informed decisions on whether to get the vaccine or whether not to get the vaccine. Again, getting vaccine is a personal choice. Okay, so some people will decide to get it and some people will not get it. That's their own personal choice. We are not placing judgment here, but what our role here in Public is to present the facts. So now for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine, it is mRNA-based vaccine. mRNA is messenger ribonucleic acid. I want us to understand that mRNA-based vaccine, this is the first time in the history of biotechnology or pharmaceutical company to develop a vaccine that are based by mRNA, right? So now I can understand also the concern why people are concerned about, okay, this is first time in the world of pharmaceutical vaccine product that mRNA has been used. However, mRNA technology is not new. It's been there for years. There's been a lot of research done with mRNA. For Janssen, however, for Janssen vaccine, it is spike protein based. Spike protein is actually the protein that binds to the membrane to be able to cause infection. So they use it commonly. The traditional way of making vaccine is, either using a live vaccine, but then way diluted and inactivated, or there's other ways. Another way is by actually inactivating. We call it killed vaccine, taking the whole vaccine and deactivating it, and then use it as a vaccination. So those are the three the differences in those three vaccines: Pfizer, Moderna, and Janssen. And then for the inactive ingredients or components with these three vaccines, you can see on the slide I'm not going to go in detail describing all these compounds, but if you're interested in looking into these compounds, you can look into it and know specifically their profile. But none of these compounds here, there's nothing toxic about them. It's what has been used before in different types of vaccines, sucrose, cholesterol, polysorbate and glycol. All these are common chemistry compounds that has been there before and has been used before. So Dr. Haley, go ahead.
So with vaccine efficacy, there's between Pfizer, Moderna, and Janssen, as you can see, the effective rate for Pfizer and Moderna are fairly close at 95% effective at preventing symptomatic COVID-19 infections, but with the Janssen, it's only at 66.9%. The efficacy rate for Pfizer did not vary by demographic factors, such as age, race, or ethnicity, but note for Moderna, there were slightly lower efficacy individuals older than 65 for Moderna, and however, there was no difference based on race or ethnicity. And then for Janssen, which does have a low effective rate, vaccine efficacy was similar across both age groups, between 18 and 59, and anyone older than 60. For both Moderna and Pfizer, there are insufficient data to determine if asymptomatic infection or infection transmission can be prevented, and that's what we're talking about when we're saying that just because you get the vaccine does not mean that you cannot carry COVID-19 and pass it on to someone else, even though you're not showing the symptoms. We know today that prior to the vaccination coming out that people were asymptomatic and had COVID-19, and that's why, contribute to the numbers rising. So that is very important to note. And I personally have had people come to me and say, you don't need a mask around me because I got my first dosage. And I had to inform them that their belief is not necessarily true. For the difference in vaccination administration, Janssen does seem more appealing to people that don't like shots because it's one shot required, versus Moderna and Pfizer, 2 shots are required. But as we do know, when you register for your shots, they tell you which one you're getting. It's not that you get to like going to a store where you're selecting, I want Pfizer, I want Moderna, and I want Janssen. It doesn't work that way. So that's how that goes.
Dr. Hadley. So this is clear, Dr. Hadley, next slide has described the vaccine administration and also the efficacy and all that stuff. That's really good. But I need to go back quickly to what Dr. Hadley just pointed out about getting vaccination. Getting vaccination, there's no evidence by any of the pharmaceutical companies, especially for Pfizer and Moderna, that if you get it, in fact, in one of the slides, it says there is insufficient evidence that you cannot transmit. They do not have that evidence right now. However, you are protected from the symptoms. So you're not going to have nausea, you're not going to have any symptom associated with COVID-19, but there's no evidence that you are not a carrier and cannot transmit that virus to your family member. The reason this is important is that if you're living in a household where there's people that have different opinion about the vaccine and you get it, and some of your family members didn't get it, and you're walking around, I got the vaccine, you might actually be exposing them to the risk of actually getting COVID-19 because you can possibly transmit it to them. So that's why it's important to get all the facts, get all the information, and then people can make informed decisions. Yes, you protect them, but when you go around to people that are not vaccinated, it is still a good idea to still wear masks. It's not that you're protecting yourself from it, but you're protecting them from getting it, assuming that you are a carrier transmitting the virus and you didn't even know that you're a carrier because you didn't have any symptoms. So that's very important, especially for Pfizer and Moderna. For actually NSYNC, they have a different take. I think their take is that they're saying that 66.9% effective at preventing moderate to severe COVID-19 infection occurring at least 14 days after vaccination. Again, it wasn't clear whether you can actually be able not to transmit. Now, if you look at the possible side effects for Moderna and Pfizer, they have similar side effects, which is fatigue, injection site pain, headache, muscle pain, joint pain, and fever. For Janssen, they added additional symptoms, which is myalgia and nausea, and those are the new things different from Moderna and Pfizer that they added. And for the side effect, the most common side effect reported during the clinical trial, they reported the second dose. These side effects are most common after second dose for both Pfizer and Moderna. And then for Janssen, because it's only one dose, so they commonly reported these symptoms among participants 60 years of age and older, while for the Moderna and Pfizer, most of the symptoms I mentioned earlier are reported among younger adults. And then the rare side effects reported for Pfizer and Moderna is Bear palsy. And for the Janssen, the rare side effects as vaccination syndromes are radiculitis brachial. So those are the rare common side effects for Janssen.
So for this was a common question. Actually, what started us to even speak about this was there were questions regarding pregnancy and the vaccination. And I do have friends that are pregnant, and there was some concern about this, these vaccinations, because her doctor recommended it, and she was a little bit confused about the safety of it. So, and I told her exactly what it says. For Pfizer, Moderna, and Janssen, there's no human data available, but interim data from animal studies show no issues. Pregnant and lactating people should discuss the risks and benefits with their provider. You should always do that anyway when, that's a norm for us. Any medication you take or any questions you have regarding your health, especially for pregnant and lactating women, that's something that you should do. However, people will have concerns about the safety regardless of what their doctors say, and that holds true. And then the storage requirements, they're listed as is, just information. This is just more information. We're not personally storing them, but professionals that are in the field, this is the requirements as far as storage, which might add to the fact that, when they have to they have too many and at certain centers, and they're needing people to come and get the vaccine quickly or whatever the case, because they have to throw them out, dispose of. This could be I could foresee some issues with that.
So the next slide, we put this slide just to provide general information. So we want to inform everybody participating that there's a site called clinicaltrials.gov. This clinicaltrial.gov is one of the requirements for pharmaceutical company, universities, or any type of organization conducting clinical trial. Any type of clinical trial. It doesn't have to be vaccine. It could be drug, therapeutic, or whatever. You are required to report this information, register with clinicaltrial.gov, and provide information about this particular trial or drug or whatever you're doing with National Institute of Health. So if you're interested to know more about current studies ongoing right now on this COVID-19 vaccine, you can go to this site and you can see all the current studies. Some studies are currently being done on the impact of these COVID-19 vaccines on fertility. So there are so many variety of current studies being done right now. They're monitoring, they're having people enroll. There are some studies that have already been completed. So you can see those information. You go to this site, you'll see ongoing studies, you see completed studies. You can filter out actually as well what you're looking for. And that will also help inform you about these particular vaccines and the interest about other studies by the university or by any other organization that are conducting ongoing studies on the vaccine. So we thought it's important to provide this information, so people that are really, really interested will go in there and look for information if they want.
Yeah, I just want to add too, if you want to learn or know there's a lot of information on the actual Moderna, Pfizer sites, Janssen, for information on the different vaccinations too. And we usually post our reviews and where you can go, links, we'll post them on our public website for you after the show. But they do tell you like how many people participated in studies on the vaccination and stuff like that by race. They break it down, because I looked into that too. And unfortunately, as usual, and yes, the minority community has been affected in the past, and it keeps stemming on, but Blacks you're going to notice, are the lowest in participating in these things. So, with that said, we do still need to, instead of saying they don't, coming up with the ideology that they don't make these things for us, they don't have enough of us that participate in order to, come up with, data and information to ensure that, or assure us that these are for us as well. So there's a lot more to these, to what goes into these vaccinations and research, but you can get that information online as well.
And just to add to what Dr. Haley just said, in terms of participation, there's a historical reasons why often Black people do not want to participate in clinical trials. We've known about Tuskegee experiment. We've known about a lot of all this stuff. However, that does not justify us not participating. And that also is not an excuse for pharmaceutical company organizations to say, well, they're not interested in participating. There's also what is called targeted intervention. So targeted intervention, if you know that, and I'm speaking now to organizations on clinical trials or CROs, targeted information means that, okay, there's a low number of African American participating. And how do you target this population to be able, of course, you're not going to force them, but find a way to target them to be able to encourage them to participate and represent in the trial, to be able to get enough data that represent that population. These are things we're doing in public health, in evaluations and other programs. So it is doable that they should also be doing that. So there's not even, from my own perspective, any excuse by the pharmaceutical company not to have enough African Americans or other population to be enrolled in the clinical trial. It will take time, but this is what we call targeted intervention. That has to be also part of the process and protocol of enrolling patients into clinical trials.
Yes, thank you
And
for
this is
that.
my own personal opinion.
Yeah, it's very valid. Thank you. All right. So now we have a few people that have attended that actually have had the COVID vaccination either fully with the 2 injections or have started the process. And we just, we're all about community, and what better way to give information through people that actually have done it. So we have Dr. Frank Agody here with us, and we would like him to give us his experience with getting the COVID vaccination. Dr. Agody?
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much for this very informative discourse. And before I give my own experience, there's something that Dr. Mone says, targeted intervention, and also when saying, I think I'm sorry, I had something say that, oh, not for us. I think the issue is that this Tuskegee, which is hindering us to participate. The problem is us when we don't participate. So when most of these clinical trials are done, because we're not, then most of them are not even done having us in mind. And also I agree with Dr. Mole. The technology that was used for this vaccine was already in vogue, been tried for other diseases. Then it was a good thing that this happened. That unfortunately too, that something was already there, was tried, worked. Another thing again that I have been using, letting our people know, how come this was so fast? It takes this many years before it happens. I say, okay. What happens is that before, most people are doing this trial, they don't have funding. And most of them run out of money. So some of them, it takes that long to do. This thing went through this whole process that is normally done. Regulatory process was done. But for the fact that this happened, the whole world, money was pumped into it. Government put a lot of money into it. Individual put a lot of money into it. So that was one of the things, that the funding wasn't an issue. And also the technology was there already. It wasn't an issue. So those are the things that I have used to let our people know. Even then, this hesitance is still there because of other things. Another thing that we could use also is that majority of people dying, I mean, our own people who don't even want to wear a mask. Our own people who, due to many reasons, don't have a trust, they will die. Now, I'll tell you another thing. I live in the California, Oakland area. Oakland used to be predominantly black. Now, without being stereotyping, most of people sold their home. Their grandparents bought for them. They just took the money. Can't even afford to buy another home. Now the whole place is being dominated by different people. Now there was a church, EME church, that they started using the vaccine. When this thing came, no black was there, and there were people that you took who already have covered were people who were online and took this vaccine. Now, when people hear that, even this vaccine are not given to the black people who's supposed to have it, we don't want to take it. So for me, I did. In fact, one of my friends said, if you want to get it, take Moderna. But like, one of the speakers says, whatever we can get, let's get it. I took my own vaccine. The first trial, everything was fine. But a couple of days, then I find some stuff, rashes on my lips. I don't want to say that much because people who are anti, or people who are against it. Oh, okay, see it. But I told them that it's even worse that I am admitted in hospital. Even worse that somebody is in ventilator. So I had this, rashes on my lips. It was dark. I thought it was I was shaving. Then when I was doing some research, I find out one of those symptoms, symptom of COVID, which means the vaccine is working. Yeah. So I have this thing that was on my lips, dark. I checked it again. I thought it was also after my research. I saw this is one of the symptoms that people can also because they say that smell, not having smell and all stuff. That's okay, which means the vaccine is working. Now on the site, I didn't have any issue. I didn't have any pain on the site. Everything. Then sometimes I have a little headache, unexplainable headache that I could but I didn't want to take anything because just to prevent whatever is going on. But those are the little things I had when I took the first one. But the second one, which I took last almost 7 days now, 8 days now. I mean, I didn't see anything. I didn't even get the same reaction I got before. I didn't get any headache. I didn't get anything. So for me, the only thing I could say was the first dose was what I had, this little stuff that, which is even minor. Sometimes it's like normal thing that could happen to anybody, except in my lips. So that is what I would say on that. But and I took Pfizer, so in case somebody want to do it. So to me, whatever we can do to let people do it, take it, it's much better for me. So that was my experience.
So that's interesting that you say that you had your first most of your symptoms in the first dose. Now, I want us to always stay away from generalization. Generalization is one of the erroneous concepts in science that people always make. Like we don't want to take it or whatever. Anybody can speak for themselves, and that will be fine. Because the reason I'm bringing generalization up is that in the slide we shared, it shows that the side effects are more common for Pfizer after the second dose and are reported more by younger adults. Here you go now, sharing your own experience is outside of what the pharmaceutical company has presented. You showing that you experienced your side effects when you received that first dose. You see what I mean? So people are always different. People cannot be the same. There's people that will actually get a reported dying of the vaccine, but it's a small number of people, right? So the reason we're presenting this here in this platform is to present the information to people and still provide them that inherent right to make the decision for themselves. We're not here to force anybody to take vaccine, but we're here to present the information and let other people that already received the vaccine share the experience, and people can actually make informed decision on whether to get it or not to get it. I think Dr. Haley, there's another person that had experience or something like that needed to share.
I don't think that person's here, but
Okay.
Is there anybody else that would like to, that we do not know about, that would like to share an experience, recent or?
I want to add something. Sorry. Yeah, I think that Dr. Muller was right. All the voting has been on the second dose. And actually, what I did was I told CDC, I think CDC people were there collecting the data. When I told them, they were very much interested. I told them I gave them my name and all the information. So, in fact, one thing they did, because I had that experience, instead of, because they normally keep people for 15 or 30 minutes to wait before they leave. And where I had it, it was, drive through. By the time you go the cycle, then they hold you for 15 minutes. So because I had that such experience, so they had me for 45 minutes. And they had nurses and serious people monitoring me. Then after which nothing happened, then they let me go. So those are the things that, just what Dr. Mole said, was that most of the experience has been second dose. So this month, so which was very interesting too. Thank you.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
and I'm glad you said that because that your symptoms happened right away. So I'm glad you clarified that for us, that it wasn't that, because at first I understood it that I thought in my mind that you went home and, days later it happened, but your symptoms actually showed up instantaneously from the time.
Oh, no. I was saying that when I came to the second dose, I told them what happened to me. Then they kept me because they were saying that they were collecting data for people who, because all their stuff has been on second dose. So it was very interesting. And mine was 4 doses. After 3 days, I had this experience. They asked me if I had any allergy or whatever for the first dose. I told them. Now they kept me, instead of 15 minutes, normal 15 minutes, they kept me 45 minutes just to watch the reaction for the second dose, if something could happen immediately. And they told me if anything happened, I should call them. So it wasn't the instant. It was the first one was
Okay, thank you. So with that said, thank you, Dr. Agodi, again for talking about your personal experience. We appreciate that. Now we will open up the floor. I will stop sharing the slides, but we like to open up the floor for everyone that's participating. We can converse on this topic, ask your questions. Your opinions are always warranted, and so forth, and on what you think about the COVID-19 vaccine. Thank you. Anybody like to contribute? Anything? Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's my understanding that if you get the vaccines, both of them, that of course it doesn't make you immune from contracting the COVID-19, but it does. You still can get it, and you can transmit it. Is that the correct understanding? Okay. Now, schools are beginning to open up. Has there been any tests for the kids, not the teenagers, but the kids from 1 to grade 1 to 8, who and have they concluded whether they can actually get the virus and transmit it?
That's a really good question. I personally haven't looked into that, children, nor have I heard anything about children. And that's a good point you bring up, because I know personally with both of my kids' schools, their elementary children, there have been just this week incidences between last week and this week of a student contracting COVID-19. Specifically, it was a student, and they're in grades now. Elementary is grades kindergarten through 6th grade. So that's a really good question that we should look into. Thank you for that.
Robert, you brought up a very important concern. I don't think I know a lot about clinical trials. Right now, the phases of clinical trials is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Okay. The vaccine is already out. There's also what a lot of people didn't know, which is called post-market surveillance, which is phase 4, after FDA approved the vaccine. I do not think that if you get the vaccine, I don't think it's advisable for you to go around and think, that you're immune and then just live as normal like we've been living. I think even CDC still recommend you wear masks. You should be doing everything you're doing like you are still at risk. Because if you remember, like Dr. Henley talked on this before, when the virus started, there's people that actually are asymptomatic. They don't get no symptom, but they still transmit the virus. So I think it's still a bigger concern for people that are well informed to still consider themselves at risk, even if not just that you get the vaccine, but think about other part of your family member, other people that might not want to get the vaccine, which is their right not to get the vaccine. If they choose not to, that can actually get the virus from you, even though you get the vaccine. Now, what we don't know, there are so many things we don't know about the vaccine, which we will end up finding out later on, which is, including the long term and all that stuff. How long, if you get the vaccine, how long do you build immunity? Is it something 6 months? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Do we know that? Again, those are the data that is being collected now during post-market surveillance, to see how long does this immunity last, and then if it lasts longer than reported, then that will provide that buffer of herd immunity. But we don't know that. I think it's advisable for everybody. If you get the vaccine, still consider, still protect yourself, still protect people around you that might not want to get the vaccine. That's my own personal opinion.
But do you know anything about the kids? I think that was the main question. Have you heard Dr. Amelou or anybody regarding elementary school kids? I think that was the main part of the question that was being asked.
Yeah, I want to add something, Frank. I think that's the obvious question, but I heard that even Philadelphia or somewhere where people teachers don't want to go back to classes because of that. I think there's a study being done in Israel, because Israel has almost 90% of the adults being vaccinated. So I think Moderna, left turn. I think Moderna also doing I think from how many years and above. Those are the things that are being done now. Now, because of the how severe this disease is for adults, that's why even CDC, I think, came out on Friday. Instead of 6 feet, they want it to be 3. That notwithstanding, in I think Japan and other countries, who have been going to school, the whole kids wear masks and they do what they need to do. So, and it has shown that masks protect. That is the only barrier we know now, and doing other washing hands, because those things are already, there for tuberculosis and other diseases. Washing hands, cleaning your hands, doing everything. So this is one thing that we parents should do, and the thing of people don't want to vaccinate is their right. It's okay, but that somebody want to die, it's his right to die, doesn't really mean that they should die. Anything we can do to let people know. So right now, the study has been going, like Dr. Emolo said, there are so many we don't know, but whatever we can do, get that fear and also do something. So as long as very soon, a study is going to come out to let us know how much, for the student. I think that study is not yet out, but they're doing it now.
Thank you for that.
Hi, hello?
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, turn on my camera. Hi, can you hear me? Hi, my name is Tiara Riggs. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation, Dr. Ndutaku. He's a good friend of mine. We met in a doctoral program together. But if I could, just wanted to be indulgent for a moment and thank you for this presentation. I am a diabetic, type 2 diabetic, recently diagnosed. Very athletic, asymptomatic. So of course, and as an African-American woman, I do have my trepidations about taking the vaccine, but I work for the Department of Health here. So I play a pivotal role in my community in setting the example. So in recent weeks, I have been convinced to research further and seeing if getting the vaccine would be best for me and someone who has, a health condition, but also to address the question with the children and vaccines and COVID. I'm a mother to a 5-year-old who is in kindergarten. And here in the state of Indiana, currently you have the choice of having your child go to school in person. But even at the kindergarten level, they are able to be completely virtual as well. If they have any symptoms that are indicative of COVID, they will send your child home immediately, and you cannot return without a COVID test. reading that it's negative. But if not, they will send you out of school for 2 weeks. So that has happened to my son, and there have been, even at his kindergarten academy, about 5 children so far that have been positive for COVID. So it's still very much an issue here, even in Indiana, with the children. But thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
for
Tiara,
that.
for sharing your experience, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks a lot.
Robert, did any of this address your concern or your question?
No. Well, yes and no. I'm talking about the efficacy test. At first, Dr. Fauci indicated that at one point that the kids that they didn't have any trials for the kids to see if they were asymptomatic or whether they could actually get the virus. Okay. Now, if you're in a household and you have children and they're going to school, which that's what it appears is happening, that they're opening up the schools. If a kid gets the virus and he transmits the virus, he can bring it home, whether you have a test, a vaccine or not. And you're still going to get it, and then you're going to be. It's kind of like a revolving circle. You know, if your child has the virus, brings it home, and you have had the vaccine, you're going to get the virus unless you're masking the child up every time he comes home during this whole duration, and you're masking up. But parents probably, I'm saying, would not do that. You know, they'll bring the child home like they normally do, put them in the car or whatever, and bring them home. You get the virus, and then because you have to keep from giving it to other people by wearing a mask when you're experiencing with other people. But how does this herd immunity come about? If that could happen if we don't know about the children.
This is a great question. You're right. We don't know much about children. And even if you look at the first slide we presented, for example, the Pfizer vaccine is appropriate for people age 16 and older. Moderna is appropriate for people age 18 and older, and Janssen people age 18 and older. Again, you're absolutely right. There's nothing about children in this whole thing. And if you don't account for children, we are going in revolving a circle, right? So because this whole thing is going to continue to linger for a long time. And that's why I mentioned earlier, that's what they call post-surveillance marketing. In this stage right now, the vaccine is out, there's going to be a lot of data being collected. And to figure out, are we actually flattening the curve? Are we developing, creating herd immunity? And we will know more on this. But this is a question that I will tell you right now, nobody knows among the scientific community. You see what I mean? But that's a very good question that you posed.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any other comments or questions relative to this conversation?
Hi, this is Felicia Haddon.
Hi.
Hi, little Claire there. Hi. Yeah, I have just a comment because I work in more with safety for the Department of Correction, and I've noticed we now have the health department, as far as California health employees that work with CDCR, doing contact tracing part for our offices because we are considered essential employees. However, I have been teleworking and I was going in only one day, and now they're opening it back up to 3 days. And I've always voiced my concern about being in the office because I'm high risk. And I can say for the whole year of COVID, being at home, I've noticed that I don't get sick as often as I normally would being in the office. My concern that I've noticed is there's a lot of people in the office that have gotten the vaccine either through our department or through their medical provider. However, since they've gotten the vaccine, there have been few that experienced the side effects and still come into the office. However, they would take off their mask while they're in their own office. They're instructed to wear their mask while they're in the office at all times. However, they have this thing in their mind that because they got the vaccine, that they're immune or have some type of immunity. So those who have had the vaccine commune together, go to lunch together, be around and be as a group. And I have voiced my concerns to management regarding me being there, and that I didn't feel that they were looking after my health and safety and my well-being, so I requested to go home. They advised me that I need to bring in a doctor's note to excuse myself, to say that either the reasoning for me either having health risk, because I had already provided them one last year. So I've provided them like 3 different doctor's notes, generic ones, and now they're indicating that that's still not sufficient, that I need to provide. So I'm thankful that you guys are giving this information to. I want to educate myself more about the different vaccines, because I've heard what you indicated about you can still be contagious and give it, or be asymptomatic after you've had the vaccine. If that's the case, the whole concept is, why even continue getting it if you can still get it and contribute it and give it on? So it's going to be like a vicious cycle continuing to spread again. So I have concerns, and I thank you for providing this avenue and getting information, because I want to educate myself more. I was a contract tracer last year for a few months, and I had to take like 2 weeks of extensive training with UCLA extension courses, as well as with CDC training. However, after having all that training, I was pulled away from the on-loan assignment due to me having to go back to work, to my regular position. And I felt I was hoping that that would have given me an avenue to learn more information about COVID-19.
Thank you so much, Felicia, for sharing your experience, and I'm happy that this avenue and platform and this topic and all the information we provided somehow informed you, and hopefully there will be something beneficial coming from this, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment or have a question?
Yeah,
or...
I want to say something just for what she said. I think CDC just came out last week. I said just for her to know that people who have had
a connection issue, I think.
Okay. Is there anybody else have anything to say? We can't hear Agadi, so.
Yeah, he might have to log out and log back in. Okay. Well, this was a really good discussion that, you know, as the vaccination matures and, you know, there are new findings, it's a discussion worth talking about again in the future, probably. Hopefully we can address some of the issues and questions by then, such as for the kids and stuff, because that is a very important topic. Dr. Agodi, go ahead and finish.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. I just came home and I think I got disconnected.
Yeah,
anyway,
Dr. Agodi, sorry. Just can you make it brief, because we're at the
maybe
there's other people that want to say something, please.
yeah, just to answer what she said, so that to make her feel good, there is this CDC had this now. We do that at our job too. That if people who have had both vaccine, they can be at the same place and without their mask. I think that may be what was happening. But if you have not had anything, I think it's better for you not to be around them to avoid any complications. So I think when you see them doing that, which then it's not it's not a kind of something that they could just be immune, but they can within themselves, within their cycle, they can just say without mask. I think maybe that's what they were doing. That a lot of people wasn't informed on that.
This is the issue I have with that.
Yeah,
You know,
I was going to say something.
Let's say they can transmit, right? And the virus that they contacted will still be viable, right? It's only deactivated to infect their body, their cells, right? And they're using common area like kitchen, and they're not using their mask. Of course, the virus is coming out, sticking on the floors in the kitchen or whatever. I mean, that's the group, and they will end up leaving. Somebody else has to come in the kitchen. The point that Felicia is making and Robert is making is that there's possibility, if we're still not considering this as risk and people protecting themselves by wearing masks, we will never get out of this. You know, it will be a revolving cycle because people think just getting vaccine alone, which the evidence and the document presented by this pharmaceutical company didn't say that you cannot transmit. I want to make that clear to everybody. None of the pharmaceutical companies say that when you get the vaccine, you cannot transmit it to other people. They never say that. They have insufficient data. So the reason for this discussion is to make sure if you want to get the vaccine, please, with all means, do get the vaccine for yourself because this is a personal choice. But also understand that there's still need for you to protect yourself and protect people around you by wearing masks.
Yep, absolutely. You said everything that I was thinking. With that said, any last comments before we close out? Well, if there aren't any, as always, wait, I see it in the chat. Oh, yes, you're welcome, Felicia. I just checked in the chat to make sure that I didn't miss any questions or comments. Well, we thank you all for attending our healthy discussion with healthy people, and we hope that you share to create a healthy environment. You stay masked up, no matter if you make the decision to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Not only are you protecting yourself for getting it, but you're protecting others, and that's how we have to think. We thank you again, and we look forward to you attending public roundtable discussions in the future. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.